the next thing is to live out our faith visibly. And this has way more to do with our character and our kindness than it does, and I mentioned this earlier, just evangelizing all the time.
And you're specifically talking about the straight up, I'm talking to you about Jesus.
Yeah.
Evangelism, right?
When we meet with a new client, I'm trying to find out about them. I'm trying to find out, what are they really trying to accomplish? Right? Yeah, you want to sell this building, I get that. But like, what are you actually trying to accomplish? What do you want your life to look like 3 years down the road? We ask them all these questions. We try to get to know them. And in some ways, it's a test. If they won't share with us some of these things, they might not be a good fit for us. But if they'll let us in and actually let us understand what they're trying to accomplish long term, then that helps me serve them better on this specific deal that they're wanting to accomplish. Yeah. In that needs assessment, like, I'm not going to say, oh, by the way, you ever think about spiritual things? And like lead that into a gospel presentation? Like, I'm not, that's not what I'm talking about here.
Right.
Now, maybe that happens.
Right.
All right. But that's not I'm not trying to work the gospel into everything I do so that I can have these gospel presentation conversations.
Right.
What I do want is that 100% of my behavior to reflect the gospel.
Yeah.
And so I want to serve them. I want to consider them more important than myself. I want to deal with them with humility. I want to deal with them in an excellent way. I want my yes to mean yes. I want to have integrity. I want all those things to be true so that they might wonder, and what is it about this company, or what is it about this guy or whatever.
Yeah.
So here's a couple verses. One is Romans 2:4. I think it's Romans 2:4. Basically says it's the loving kindness of the Lord that leads to repentance. This is, I wish the church would just meditate on what this verse actually means. It's loving on people that leads to repentance and change. It's not arguing with them. It's not debating theology. It's not
judging, condemning.
Yeah. It's none of that stuff leads to repentance. It's the loving kindness of the Lord that leads to repentance. The people who say they follow Jesus are just out there telling the world all the things they're doing wrong. And they're not showing the love, right?
Right.
And it's so counterproductive.
Right.
That's a little bit oversimplified, but you get my point.
Yes, I do.
Matthew 5:16 goes along with this. This is from the Sermon on the Mount. Let your light shine before men
that
in
they
such
may
a way.
See your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. Matthew 5:16. Donut man or something.
Oh, yeah. But that's what that is. Interact with people in such a way that they see your good works and not glorify you, but glorify God who's in heaven.
Right.
Like, I want to do business in such a way that people will look at what we do around here and actually glorify God. And here's another verse that I think is taken out of context. Misunderstood. It's probably a better way to say
description.
It. 1 Peter 3:15, and this is a famous verse. You've probably heard it. But sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts, always being ready to give a defense to everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you, yet with gentleness and reverence.
Oh, yeah.
Or live in such a way that is honoring to the Lord, so that you can be ready to make a defense to everyone who you come in contact with. Is that what it says? To everyone you do business with? No, that's not what it says. You can always be ready to give a defense to everyone who asks.
Yeah.
That's a huge distinction. I want to live in such a way that people want to ask me what's different.
Right.
And when they ask me, I'm ready to give them an answer for why.
Right.
Especially in my business here. I'm not trying to initiate gospel conversations with people all the time. I'm trying to do business in such a way that people will ask me why we're different.
Yeah.
And then I've got an invitation to share Jesus with them. See, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Always being ready to make a defense to everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you, yet with gentleness and respect, which Christians aren't always great at.
I know the church should meditate on that one too.
Next thing, two more. Accountability and alignment with biblical principles. This idea of accountability is almost like discipleship in the workforce. I think this one is harder than some of the others. Integrity and ethics. Not only is that kind of easy to wrap my brain around, but I saw Dad do it. Even if I weren't a follower of Jesus, just seeing how Dad did business, I can see why it's a good idea, why it's good business, why excellence, doing things in an excellent way, that just makes sense. Being generous and philanthropic, if I weren't a follower of Jesus, I'd probably have a little bit of a problem with that. But when it comes to accountability, this is like holding each other accountable to doing excellent work. This gets harder because as Christians, man, we just want to love everybody. You know what churches are terrible at? Firing people. You know what they do instead? Let's just move them over here. That didn't work again. Let's move them over here. So you will see churches with people in positions that should have been let go decades ago, but have worked in every position in the church because nobody's got the heart to actually release them to go find the thing God's called them to do. And I don't refer to our business here as a family. We're not a family. We're a team of people who are doing business together, and teams hold each other accountable. Sometimes you got to let somebody go. That's incredibly hard. We need to hold each other accountable. And so 2 Timothy 2:2, you probably heard this as well. And the things that you've heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, these entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. That verse is in the context of discipling people. What Paul's saying to Timothy, who he's writing to there, is, hey, these things that I've taught you, teach to others. But he just doesn't say any others. He says, these entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. So he's telling Timothy, hey, entrust these things, disciple faithful men who will turn around and do it as well. And we mentioned in a previous episode, I had that dad who asked me to spend some time with his son and his son-in-law. Yeah. And the first thing I did was I tested these guys. I was trying to figure out, are these faithful men who will be able to turn around and teach others also? And that relationship, us meeting together, that fizzled out pretty quickly. Now, in business, it's the same way. Like, I want to, whether it's top producer Todd Humphreys, who doesn't need me to mentor him much at all. I mean, we've got some strengths that really fill in some weaknesses for each other. So he mentioned it, we're a good team. Yeah. But like, I don't have to teach him how to do the business. Right. But as we bring on new to the business folks, I'm going to spend a lot of time discipling them in the business. And I'm trying to figure out really, really fast if they're quote unquote faithful people who want to grow, will do, and have the ability to turn around and do the same thing for others. That's investing social capital into others who can then turn around and carry that on. Yeah. And then the last thing I would say, and I'm sure there's a lot of things I'm leaving out, but delegation according to strengths. This is the idea of being good stewards, not only of the resources that God has entrusted us with, but also with the human talent that he's brought to the company. I want to view the human talent as also belonging to God and deploying that well. So as the leader of our company here, I want to delegate and put people in the position of their strengths so that they can have the most success imaginable, so our company can have the most success possible in serving the people who we work with. Yeah. That's Romans 14:12. So then each one of us shall give an account of himself to God. I think this verse is way misunderstood. And so I don't want to go full bore like Sunday school lesson. But what that means to me is I don't think I have to give an account for every sin that I've ever given. Like, I have zero anxiety or fear about standing in front of God in some point in the future and having to account for every sin that I ever committed. Because you know what? They're forgiven. And God says in a number of different places that he actually forgets them. So I don't think he's got a book of all my sins. What I do think I'm going to have to give an account for is how I've managed the resources he's given me. And I do think I'm going to have to give an account for the works that I've done, not the sins that I've committed, and there's a difference. God says, look, I brought this talent to the company. Like, how did you use it? And I want to use it well. I want to delegate responsibilities and authority in ways that put people in positions of their strengths and so that they're able to have success for everybody's benefit.
Of course, there's the parable of the talents.
Yeah.
And I mentioned when we were talking to Todd Humphreys how I did one day cross country. Mm-hmm. Do you know that story?
I've heard you tell that story before.
Yeah, because I didn't want to do band, right? And I had done band for 4 years previous, and I was playing the French horn. Mm-hmm. So, mom, dad bought me a French horn, and those aren't super cheap.
Nope.
Yeah, it's time to go to high school. Band is not cool. And when I told Dad I didn't want to do band, what he said was like, okay, well, we're going to take this French horn and you go bury it in the backyard. Because he and Mom recognized where my talents were. And then I had to choose to do something else. Like I had to do something. And of course I did cross country and then for one day. And then I was like, I'll do band. And then we ended up winning state championship.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. The Band of Pride.
Davis County High School Band of Pride. And I just remember that being one of the best feelings of my life. That wouldn't have happened if, Mom and Dad were just like, okay, whatever you want to do, we support whatever you want to do and didn't hold to or recognize my, where my giftedness was. And
And look, what's the verse? Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he won't depart from it.
Yeah.
That's not talking about train up a child to love Jesus. That's saying help your child find out what the Lord has gifted him to do. Total different meaning when you think of it in those terms.
Yeah, I think Mom and Dad interpret that the other way, or they used to.
I think most of the church does.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about a lot of stuff. I just don't think so, or I wouldn't think that way.
Right. I mean, you are a student of the Bible, for sure, in a refreshing way. Really trying to understand the context and what it means and not just take it by what somebody else said it means or whatever,
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I think my giftedness is in teaching, and I so enjoy teaching anything. So I love teaching my Sunday school class. I love teaching CCIM courses.
Yeah.
Those two things couldn't be any different. I mean, they're not opposed to each other, but just totally, I just love to teach.
Yeah.
I love teaching you this stuff.
Yeah.
I just love to do this.
Yeah.
But any questions?
I do. Well, there's something I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if this will make it in the podcast. But if you like that, you can watch another clip right here. If you want to watch the full episode, right here.
Do it.